Hello and welcome to the Created to Create show. Today I have with me the gorgeous Catriona. Welcome, Catriona. How are you?
Yes, I'm very well, thank you.
Good to
I'm
hear.
delighted to be
Oh, thank you.
here.
I'm so glad that you could find time in your busy schedule to jump on. Please tell us a little bit about you.
Well, I'm a contemporary young adult author, so I write for teenagers, and I have four books. I say books because three of them are novels and one is a novella. And yeah, so two of those, one book and one novella and one of the young adult novels have just recently been released in the last couple of months.
That's it.
So that's what I do. That's what I do as a writer, and then I also have a full-time job, which actually pays the bills. And I work as a teacher. I work as an inclusive education teacher, so I work with children with disabilities in high school in Sunshine Coast. I also have a husband and I also have three children. My two eldest are a bit more grown up. So my oldest is married, and my middle child actually lives with the married couple. And then our youngest is still at home with us. And all three of them have various forms of disability themselves. So when we talk about the fact that I write with people with disability into my novels, it comes from experience as a parent of someone who has children with disabilities.
Yeah. Yeah. Amazing. Amazing. Do you remember what sparked your desire to write in the beginning?
I've always loved writing. Always done writing as a bit of a hobby. I remember when I was about, I think 19 or something like that, I did a writing course, um, as well as doing my Bachelor of Arts in English, History and Politics. Um, so that was all about at the same time. And then once I started teaching, I kind of put writing aside a little bit. I didn't do a great deal of it. And then once I had children, I picked it up again, sort of had a little bit more downtime, a little bit more headspace, perhaps is the right way to put it. And then when my two older girls went to school, we went to a place called Halls Creek in Western Australia, which is an Indigenous community. There was not a lot to do in the town. So I was a stay-at-home mum with my 2-year-old, and there was one park in the town. It was 40 degrees outside, and it had a slide. It was a tin slide, and it had one of those, spinny, roundy things, and that was about all they had at the park. The pool was closed because if the pool was open, then the kids didn't go to school.
Oh,
It was very limiting. So a playgroup started off up about halfway through the year, and so we went to that. But yeah, there was very little to do, and so it was a good opportunity for me to really start getting back into writing again. So I wrote a novel. It was a very, very long novel. It was actually a Christian women's novel that I
mhm.
wrote, and
And where is that novel now?
that novel is buried deep somewhere on my computer. So I did enter it into the Amiga Writers Caleb unpublished manuscript competition, and it was shortlisted for that, which gave me a bit of confidence that maybe my writing wasn't too terrible. And then I decided that it just needed too much work and I wasn't prepared to put any more time and work into that novel. That, you know, how sometimes you just get tired of a novel that you've
Yeah.
been working on and working on and working on. So I needed to just put it away, and I really did some soul searching about what I wanted to do and whether I did really want to pursue this and wanted to do writing. And I started to read some young adult novels and fell in love with young adult novels. I hadn't read a lot before that other than for school.
Mm,
And I went, you know what? I actually want to write some young adult novels for my children,
mm,
that come from a Christian worldview. And so yeah, that's when I put together The Boy in the Hoodie.
mm.
That was my first novel, released way back in 2017,
Yeah.
and
Awesome.
and that actually won the
And it's a
Kale,
good
which was nice.
read. Well done. Yeah. And often, for many authors, the first book that we write isn't the first book we publish and may never be published
Mm.
because it's a training
Yes.
ground. You've got to learn in the doing.
Mm.
Yeah. So what are you working on at the
Yeah,
moment?
that's right. It would. So I have a couple of things in that I'm working on at the moment. So we are writing some Riser Shorts novellas at the moment in at Riser Edge, which is a publisher.
Hmm.
So I have uh, Ways to Die Right. So this is my novella. And so I also have another one which is coming out next year, which is called The E-Revolution, which is about e-scooters.
Hmm.
And so it's a lot at the moment, e-scooters. And so I'm just doing a little bit more research about because there's a government inquiry going on into e-scooters at the moment. So I'm doing a little bit of extra research on that, and perhaps doing a little bit of editing accordingly.
Uh-huh.
And then I'm also writing a historical fiction,
Is that going
which
to be a
is a time travel.
novella or a novel?
It's going to be a novel. Yeah.
It's a novel.
Yeah.
The
It'll be
e-scooters. It's an
Oh,
interesting
the
topic,
sorry.
e-scooters.
Yes, yes. Sorry, the e-scooters is a novella. Yes, yes.
It's a very interesting topic.
It is. It's very
Love them
controversial.
or don't love them or
Yes,
avoid them because they're dangerous little things sometimes. Great way to
correct.
get
Yeah.
around until they're
Yeah.
dangerous.
Yeah,
Mm.
so I kind of I use my background with in politics to have the young people in the story advocate for better safety on e-scooters and also to petition the council to provide special pathways for them to be able to ride their e-scooters on. So
Mm.
that's kind of where it's at. So yeah, maybe it might be a little bit controversial because there are some people out there who really just think that they should be completely banned. But I love riding e-scooters. We've got a couple of them, and I love them. And it is a little bit frustrating. We have a 15-year-old, and she's not allowed to ride them without unless she's accompanied. So she can't just jump on one to go down the street. So it just takes away some of her independence to be able to do that kind of thing. Whereas an e-scooter, because she has she gets muscle fatigue really
Mm.
quickly. So she's actually supposed to do more walking and more exercising to help build that up.
Mm.
But if she is feeling tired, then she doesn't have that option. We've got to drive her to the shops and those sorts of things. So yeah, so that's sort of where the story came from, the
I'm looking forward
e-scooter
to that one.
revolution.
Yeah, awesome, awesome. So tell me about your personal journey and how that's influenced your writing.
Yeah, so it's kind of morphed a little bit. So when I wrote The Boy in the Hoodie, my daughter, my eldest child, was just starting to have panic attacks and like fairly significant ones. It started off they were just happening at night, and then they started to happen to her during the day, where she'd be walking along at school, about to go up a set of stairs, and kids would come down the stairs, and she would just collapse
Mm.
on the floor in tears and that sort of. So they were really significant. And she was diagnosed with post-traumatic stress. And so when I was writing The Boy in the Hoodie, I was like, well, some of the stuff that the characters go through, they are going to have likely to have some post-traumatic stress after some of the things that happen to them. And so that influenced my writing towards the end of the novel in particular, where that starts to come out, as well as exploring at the same time, if there's a student who has significant trauma in their background, what would we as a school be able to do to help them to still be able to come to school and do a bit of learning, but not be putting a lot of pressure on them. So that's kind of that's Adrian's role in the novel, is to sort of show that, and then Kat develops the post traumatic stress at the end of the novel. That kind of started it for me. Then when I was looking at writing Memphis Grace, which is my next novel. So this one, I came up with the character a character who has autism, and he sort of became the focal point for me for this novel. And then I sort of wrote the novel around him, and I just loved the character, and I just loved writing, you know, his quirkiness and his uniqueness, and also some of the downsides of, you know, some of the bullying that was happening to him, and those sorts of things. But then him rising to the occasion when the other characters do start to rally around him and realize that, you know, he was just another young
Mm.
person who just wanted to be liked and wanted to be accepted. And they did start to, the more they hung around him, the less they saw the quirkiness and the
Mm.
weirdness, and the more that they just accepted him for who he was.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I suppose you know, in the background the whole time when I'm writing is that I work with children with disability, and you know, the more that we can advocate for them in not things like novels, then the more we, you know, they will be accepted as just being, you know, a little bit,
Person.
yeah, a person, that's right, but who thinks perhaps a little bit different, or
Yeah.
who might act a little bit, might have different struggles, and that the more that we do that, more that they see themselves in the novels, then that helps them to accept themselves, and then if their friends are reading it as well, they also accept them, and then of course those people go out into the big bad world of work and adulthood, and hopefully we create a more inclusive society. So yes, that's one of my goals. So in Good Luck and Other Lies, which is my young adult novel, which has just come out this month,
Mhm.
the one of the characters has dyslexia and dyscalculia, which is a maths impairment. And yeah, so, and in Ways to Die Right, the main character, he has obsessive compulsive disorder. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, amazing. So you don't write overtly Christian books. So how do you like hold that tension between dark and light, truth, fiction?
Yeah, yeah. Look, it's really interesting. The time that I probably struggled with it the most was when I was writing Memphis Grace. So I often will have a Christian character within the story. So actually, I do that with all three of my novels. There's one of the friends within the group. There are hints at them being a Christian. In The Boy in the Hoodie, the main character, her father is a pastor,
Mm.
and they go to church, and she does reflect a little bit on her relationship with God. But with Memphis Grace, the main character and her boyfriend are not Christians, and so I really struggled with that. How do I convey the bad boy of Cooper without, particularly in the language and the way that he speaks and that kind of stuff, and still maintain some of the innocence that I wanted to write within my books. So there is just, I think it's probably like 5 times there's like a swear word, and then the Christian character, the girl within the friendship group, she's like, you know, I don't like you swearing. I don't like you swearing. If you're going to
Hmm.
hang around us, not allowed to do that anymore. And so that kind of gave me permission then to say, well, we're not going to do that anymore in the novel, if that makes sense. But it's really hard because I am writing for the general market. I'm not writing specifically for Christian kids, but like I really want to offer them the hope that comes from having a Christian worldview, and that, you know, we were created with purpose, and that there is hope in the world, and that's not all doom and gloom. And
Mm.
yeah, so yeah, it is. It's an interesting challenge. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So, what would you like to impart on the wannabe writer or somebody who's just started and is a bit lost, or up and coming authors? What would you like to share with them?
I think one of the big things that I found when I first started writing was the need to write within community. So that means, you know, being part of a writers group, at least one, if not a couple, and just like being friends with other authors and connecting in with other authors, and getting advice from other authors, and being willing to accept feedback from other professionals within the industry, that kind of thing. So it's certainly not something that you can do in isolation. Like, there's a lot of things about writing that is quite isolating, in that you're, you know, sitting behind a computer in your own brain and in your own thoughts. But it really is important to get yourself out there in terms of, yeah, building a community around you of other people who will support you within your writing.
Yeah, I agree. Community is so important. And I've loved getting to know you at the different conferences we've been to together. And I've thoroughly enjoyed having this chat with you today. Thank you so much for joining me on Created to Create. And I just want to remind everyone you were created to
Well,
create. And if you're wanting to write, start today and find your way by just starting. And thanks for joining me.
thank you so much.
And please look up Catriona and her books. And they're great to read. I love them.